Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Chelsea, going over the mid-season wrap-up, how we think they've done, where we think they can go, talk about some transfers in there, and then give them a final grade at the end. Chelsea currently gone through two managers this season, sitting fifth. Frank Lampard and the Thomas Tuchel era. Gui, how do you think they've done so far?
Think this season is definitely not what people thought was going to happen when you brought in Lampard, but and all those players, right? That was a very busy summer by Chelsea, but overall, I really like what Tuchel has done so far. I think Lampard had to go, and that was the right choice. However, Chelsea's biggest issue right now is just the fact that well, they have all these signings. They wasted a couple 100 million,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know what their future is. Should Werner stay? Should he loan him out? What about Kai Havertz, Pulisic? Even Ziyech hasn't been great. And you see that Tuchel is now putting Giroud, and Giroud is what Chelsea is relying on up front. So
Yeah,
it really makes you wonder, what do you do with those signings now? Though Tuchel, I think, is the right man for the Chelsea job, at least as of right now. He's done a great job and they've looked solid. That Atletico game was very impressive. So
I
right
think
now, I don't think Chelsea have to worry too much, but in the long term, there's a lot of factors they need to think about.
I agree. I think the issue with Chelsea is actually just that Abramovich did what he usually does, which is here's a shit ton of money, but they gave it to the wrong guy. So they gave it to Frank Lampard and they said here's a shit ton of money, and he bought. I've said it so many times. The Ziyech and Kai Havertz buy is idiotic, to like put it bluntly. They play in the same position. They always have. It's not like it's not like no one knew about it, so they gave all this money to the wrong guy, and now they're kind of having what Man United had, which is a manager with someone else's players. So it'll be interesting to see whether Tuchel is able to kind of keep all these players happy, keep them all, or whether he just says, Timo Werner, I know we bought you for 60 million last summer, but we need a 60 million pound center back, so you're gonna gotta go, piss off.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Something interesting that also came out today. Um, Erling Haaland apparently was asked basically whether he wants to join Chelsea or United, and he basically said Chelsea. He wants to, when he moves from Dortmund, he'd like to go to the best of the best, and that's not Chelsea. So I think Chelsea this season and maybe last season have kind of regressed, and we'll see how they can do in the future. What do you think, George?
I think he's saying he wants to go to City.
I'd take that.
Sad.
Yeah.
Um,
Very sad.
yeah, I was very. I had high hopes going into the season for Chelsea, just based on all the signings they made. I was fans of a few of the players that they signed, and Frank Lampard just didn't really
Yep.
figure out the system that he needed to create a winning formula for the team. And I think them sacking Lampard was it was a good decision. And since they brought in Tuchel, he's definitely proved he can hold a better system than Lampard. He's created a nice defensive system. He's maybe gone back to a few of the old guys
Mm-hmm.
for a bit of experience and maybe getting the young boys back on track. So um, I reckon they could push maybe top four, maybe. That's probably a big statement, but yeah, I think they've definitely improved since Tuchel came in. So Champions League might go well for them as well. So um,
I think
it's all right.
no, I agree. I don't think Chelsea pushing for top four is that outlandish at all. I think the way I'm looking at Chelsea this season, I'd almost nearly give them two grades: the Frank Lampard grade and the Tuchel grade, because the Tuchel grade's been quite good. They've conceded, I think it's like two goals in the first few games that they've played. They've been quite attacking. A lot of players who you kind of thought were done and dusted: Aspilicueta, Marcus Alonso, Jorginho. He's brought back into the side. He's
Rudiger, so
Rudiger as well. The players that you thought were dusted brought back into the side, showed a bit of value. I think that'll really help Chelsea in the transfer window, because they can say, look, Alonso isn't dusted. We'll sell you him for more than we would have been able to sell him before. He did that with Kepa as well. He brought Kepa in for a game. So I think Thomas Tuchel's done really well. So I think, at least for me, that what Thomas Tuchel showed is nearly A minus level, like really, really good, impressive. I think he maybe B plus, because they weren't able to get past a quite, I don't know, quite iffy Man United side. They haven't Man United side that hasn't scored a goal in 3 games, you know. So that's a downside, but I think Frank Lampard kind of brings that grade down for me. I think I go from maybe like a B plus A minus down to like a C plus, because after spending however many hundreds of millions, being 21 points behind the champion, first spot is pretty poor in my opinion. What are we going with you, Gui? What grade?
I'd give them a B. Actually, no, I'm gonna go for it. Actually, yeah, no, B minus, B minus. Because to be fair, they're still in the FA Cup. Could win it all easily. Not gonna lie.
Champions League as well.
Champions League as well, and they could easily make Champions League football next year as well through the Premier League. So, I can see this Chelsea season still being a relative success. The biggest issue is really just the players and what you want to do with them. But thus far, yeah, I think a B minus would be fair. This is sort of biased toward recency and what's been happening with Tuchel, but yeah, a B minus.
Fair enough. What are you going with, George?
I am also going to go B minus. I'm going to give the Tuchel side my grade instead of the Lampard side, because, Lampard just too many players to work into a system. I'm going to base my grade off Tuchel's side, and they've been going pretty well. They're still in Champions League and FA Cup, as Gui said. So yeah, B minus I think is fair.
Yeah, I think B minus for this point in the season. I mean, fifth, they'd be how do I put this? If Arsenal, I think we're having a little bit of recency bias, because I think if Arsenal had spent 258 million and they were sitting around fifth place, and I mean Chelsea have taken some fat L's this season, so I think if Arsenal had been sitting there, everyone would be saying it. Because it's because Tuchel has come in and kind of revived them a little bit, we'll see. I think that win against Atletico Madrid, big win for them, huge. Everyone thought, including myself, that Atletico were gonna sit deep, not allow them to score, keep them to 0 away goals, and maybe take it to Chelsea in the second leg. Chelsea got that away goal with a great Giroud strike, but it's not all uphill. They're gonna have they have Liverpool, Chelsea, Everton, Atletico Madrid, to still play in the recent weeks. They've got Arsenal, Man City, Leicester to still play in the coming weeks, so they could start dropping down the table.
Yeah, and also a lot of people watched that Atletico game and thought that Chelsea had it figured out, but they're still struggling to score goals. They drew with a United side in which they had many chances to win that game. They were by far the better side. They drew against Wolves, they drew against Southampton, and they've won like 1-0, 2-1 across most of their games. So I think going forwards, like literally offensively speaking, Chelsea still has a lot to figure out. He's tried a lot of different combinations of players, and he still doesn't have that set 11 he will take into the big games.
Yeah.
I think he's probably leaning towards Giroud, who's showed him the most success as sort of like a lone striker, and backed up by possibly Werner and what's his name? Okay.
Kai Havertz.
No, Mason Mount. That guy.
Mason Mount, yeah.
I think that's what he's leaning toward, but I don't really rate those three as sort of a diamond up front.
Yeah.
As that good or that consistent. So still a lot of questions there on that front. I want to see what he does tonight against Liverpool. That game should be exciting.
Yeah.
And how he adapts, because Tuchel has shown a lot of adaptability and a lot of trust in individuals. So I want to see how he takes the rest of the season. It could still easily go downhill if he can't find a solid front three to play.
Yeah, and I mean something that no one's really talking about. Everyone talks about it with Man City because of that 50 million Cancelo transfer and how much money they have sitting on the bench. We have to take into account that in that Man City game, they had £366 million on the bench. It's not like we're dealing with a side that he has to play Mason Mount, he has to play Callum Hudson-Odoi. He has the world's riches at his side, and he can't, like you said, figure it out. Well, hasn't figured it out going forward. I think Tuchel's a good enough manager to do that, but so far, when you have that kind of money, you expect City kind of performances, and that hasn't come out yet. So I think I'm going to stick with the C.
I think that goes to show that teams can spend money, but it's always based on the system that the manager comes up with, and that's why City are winning, and that's why they're first, is because
Oh, 100%.
Guardiola can work it out, and Lampard, maybe Tuchel can next season, but Lampard definitely couldn't. And with money, it doesn't always come success.
Yeah, you have to
So
get the right system in and all that kind of stuff. Um, in terms of summer transfers, I mean, we talked about Erling Haaland saying he doesn't want to go to Chelsea. Is there anyone that you think Chelsea particularly need or would want? There's rumors coming out that they want Donnarumma from AC Milan. I don't see why, because they've got Mendy and Kepa. Why spend another 70 million on a goalkeeper? You already have.
I think Mendy's decent enough.
I think Mendy's alright. I think Donnarumma would be an upgrade, but unless they're planning on shipping Kepa out, and especially Mendy signing this season, I don't see that.
Well, if they can get Donnarumma on a fat contract, I think it's okay. Sort of like try to create a dynasty, sort of like a second check, a dude who can stay there consistently. Because Donnarumma is, of course, super young, so I don't really see an issue with that. But only if you can secure a fat contract with like a
5-6 years.
no release clause at all, or a very fat release clause, one or the other, right? Apart from that, I would say Chelsea should look toward possibly a center back, though it is nice to see Rudiger retain form. Azpilicueta, he's old, but he's still good. I don't think they need a replacement for him. And then Christensen, don't know much about this lad, but he's been playing well recently, and he's fairly young, isn't he? Like mid-20s.
Yeah, Christensen's mid-20s.
Yeah, so yeah, possibly they could sign maybe a younger center back. Obviously, they still have Thiago Silva available when he comes back from injury, so don't think it's a big issue. The biggest thing is, figuring out those front three and what you want to do with Ziyech, Werner, Pulisic. And depending on what happens to them, you go from there. But that's where he's definitely going to have to look and see if they can find any great deals. Maybe some swap deals, maybe some loans, sign a replacement, things like that.
Interestingly, talking about the strikers, I'm just looking at the Chelsea transfer rumors currently. Karim Benzema is supposed to be on the cards after their transfer blow with Erling Haaland. I think that would be a great transfer. Super underrated striker, in my opinion. Does kind of what Giroud
He
does.
would do bits in the Prem, I think.
Yeah, he can hold the ball up like Giroud and has better finishing. So if they're going for that, that'd be fine. But it is a short term. I nearly think I don't know. We had to say one player each. What are you saying, George?
Koundé, centre back,
Jeez,
Sevilla.
That's like 70 million though.
I know, but apparently he's one of the most wanted centre backs in football right now, according to Sky Sports.
Arsenal sneaking in for Konate, by the way. I think that'd be a great signing for Chelsea, the Upamecano partner.
That would be very good, actually.
Yeah.
Konate.
Konate.
They've also got that guy Mukiele as well.
Yeah, Mukiele would be really good. I think maybe even if we're kind of assuming Chelsea doesn't have a huge budget just due to the fact that they had such a big budget last summer, even some very smart pieces of business. Schär for Newcastle wouldn't go for particularly high. Lewis Dunk at Brighton, I don't think would go for huge amounts of money. Ben Godfrey, who went from Norwich to Everton this season, super smart piece of business. There's lots of like in-house players that they can get for cut deals, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unironically, they could go for a guy like Rafael Guerreiro to help them like attack. They Hudson Odoi. No, but Guerreiro's left mid. Chilwell's right back, right?
No, he's left back.
Oh shit! Oh yeah, I'm confused. Okay, I mean a right mid then.
Okay, right mid.
Because I think Hudson Odoi is not that trustworthy yet. You could get a guy to compete for the spot right there, and they don't have.
Yeah, maybe they could do the right mid.
Yeah, Reece James is kind of important for them as well there, but yeah, I think the issue with Chelsea is not actually who they need to buy. It's more what system do they want to play. They have so many players that.
That's true.
Do they want a ball carrying midfielder? Do they want a destroyer? Do they want Metzala? Like, what kind of midfielder do they want? What kind of center backs do they want? Tuchel, if I'm honest, I don't know a huge amount about him and about his style. He seems to like the three at the back, so he would like marauding fullbacks. So maybe, like you said, Rafael Guerreiro, Grimaldo might be a good shout because he's so good at attacking. But yeah, we kind of have to just wait and see what Tuchel wants to bring to the table and who he needs, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, that's our Chelsea mid-season roundup. Thank you guys all for watching, and we'll see you next time.